Yo, what's going on, guys? KrispyFlakes here. Welcome to the Breaking the NBA podcast. Today we are going to be talking everything Detroit Pistons basketball and what exactly this average team needs to do this NBA offseason to get themselves prepared going into the next season. Because, of course, when I say average, they were 41-41, which is about as average of regular season record as you can get. Was the 8th seed in the playoffs, got swept the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, really, as a Pistons fan, I'm not even proud of that playoff spot because I would have much preferred that they did not even make the playoffs and would have got themselves a nice lottery pick inside a very, deep NBA draft class. But that's neither here nor there. Let's talk first, man. Now, before we decide what this team needs to do this offseason, you kind of have to look at the positives and kind of what they have going for them. So before we get going on that, if you guys could do me a quick favor and please drop a like on this video, help me get this video to 1,000 likes. Only takes a second of your time and really does help the channel out so much. Also, while you're down there, if you guys could let me know which team you guys want me to cover next here. So let's talk a bit about this roster. First and foremost, Blake Griffin. Honestly, probably his best all-around season ever in his entire career. Averaged 25 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists. Not to mention during those playoffs was literally playing on one leg. And he just showed that just the type of guy he is, man. Through that injury, and that's one thing you have with Blake Griffin. You do get a high injury-prone player. You're pretty much guaranteed to see Blake Griffin miss some games at some point during the season. So this season, though, was really an exception to that. He played 75 games. It wasn't until later in the season that he actually had any sort of issues, with his lower body and things like that. I think a big thing about him is just the way he changed his game, because when Blake Griffin was playing for the Clippers, his job was to dunk on you. He was attacking the basket, just a bulldog trying to get to the free throw line, and that was his game. Now, this season for the Pistons, it's every now and then, yeah, he'd have one of those dunks where it's yo, man, he still has it like that. But really, it was the development of his three-point shot, because when he first came into the league, his jump shot had a very, hitchy release to it, just something where it's ooh, that's not going to exactly work. But this season, man, shot 36% from 3. I think there was one game where he had 9 3-pointers or something like that, was just making everything, and really was just a leader of the squad out there. So it's not a bad way to go. I mean, yes, looking back at it with Blake, the trade with the Clippers where they ended up getting Tobias Harris. They also got the Pistons pick, which I believe was either Shai Gilgeous or Jerome Robinson, one of the two. Of course, Tobias Harris ended up going to the 76ers, and the Clippers, they got a nice piece in Shai Gilgeous, and Jerome Robinson, haven't seen too much from him yet. And of course, a lot of people thought the Pistons kind of gave up too much to get Blake Griffin. But regardless, he played his best basketball, and he did put the Pistons on the radar to some extent. So nothing wrong with him. It's just about putting the right pieces around him. The good thing is, too, is that, after the age of 30, you kind of start losing some of that athleticism. But that's what I was nervous about with Blake Griffin. He was going to lose that part of himself. But now it doesn't matter, because just being a better ball handler, all those things, he changed his game where he might have even added on a few more years to his NBA career. Plain simple, assuming injuries are not a big-time thing for him, which they definitely could be as he gets older out there. Next up, you want to talk about Andre Drummond. So I know there's a lot of Andre Drummond fans out there. He averaged 17 points, led the NBA in rebounding at about 16 a game. Defense wasn't bad either, man. About 1.5 steals and blocks per game. Field goal percentage, 53%. He was fine. It's just, I think the biggest issue with Andre Drummond was also one of the biggest issues that scouts talked about when he was entering the league. And that is, he lacks a motor at times. And that doesn't mean, he doesn't play hard. It just means sometimes he gets inside his own head, and that prevents him from playing really his optimal style of basketball, where, he'll miss a shot or two in a row, he'll come down the court, start pouting a bit, give up some scores to the other guys out there, and then that's just kind of enough to take him out of the game mentally. And we all know basketball, yeah, the physicality of it, of course, is the big-time thing, but also the mental aspect might even be more important. I feel like Drummond sometimes lacks that. And I think the biggest issue is that, he's going to be due a pretty good size contract, man. I don't know what his current contract is exactly. I think he's around $27-28 million with a player option out there. But the thing is that, when you're paying him that top 1, top 2 tier player money, it's really hard to improve the roster in other spots. I always thought Andre Drummond, his best situation would be like a Clint Capella type of guy out there where, if he was playing with two dominant guards, like a Chris Paul and a James Harden, that would excel his game even more, make him look even better than what he really is, man. The issue is that you don't really have that type of guard around Drummond, and I feel like he kind of loses that sometimes. You don't really have that leader all the time with Andre Drummond, and that's kind of a big issue for the Detroit Pistons, is they need him to be a leader, and that's just not really his style out there. So, yeah, if the Pistons keep Drummond, it's fine. He's going to be great, but you got to make sure you get some veterans in that locker room to kind of negate and take away some of that responsibility from Drummond and just let him play basketball. When he gets down, make him feel good about himself, man. It's just kind of how it is. Next up, let's talk about Reggie Jackson. So, I know the first notion for a lot of people is to say, Pistons need to trade Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson needs to get traded. He needs to be gone. He's not consistent. I will say, as somebody who has not been a fan of Reggie Jackson, I don't think he was an issue this season. I thought he was fine. He's got $18 million coming his way. He's 29. It's like, that is a lot of money, but not as ridiculous as some of the contracts out there. And the biggest issue with Reggie is that he can't really get other players involved. Whereas it's like he's not a bad point guard. It's just you need guys that can make plays for Drummond and Blake Griffin. That's what you need at that point guard position. You need a pass first point guard, and they don't really have that with Reggie Jackson, where he's always been more focused on scoring the basketball. But this season, put up 15 points, 4 assists per game, and got a few rebounds out there. I think the most impressive thing about him is that he did play all 82 games. That was an issue with Reggie years past, is that he was having some injury issues, but this season, man, was completely healthy, and it was nice to see him out there every single game, so I do give him props for that. But yeah, the field goal percentage at about 42%, 3-point shot actually was not too bad on about 6 attempts, shot like 37%, so that wasn't even too bad. It's just sometimes he takes, because this is the funniest part, is that he once played for the OKC Thunder, was kind of under Russell Westbrook's wing. Eventually, when Reggie said he wanted to lead his own team, him and Russell kind of had a fallout, but I do kind of see some of the decision-making of Reggie Jackson being like Russell Westbrook-esque sometimes, where he just forces shots that really he shouldn't be taking. When he plays composed basketball and he takes smart shots, Reggie Jackson's not bad, guys. I mean, he's not going to lead you to the NBA championship, and I will say, for an average team, the Detroit Pistons, I feel like an average point guard like Reggie Jackson definitely is, the poster boy for that, where if Reggie were to go to a championship team, his best role would be the exact role he was in the OKC Thunder, and that's just a guy that just comes off the bench and is the first guy off there, but is going to bring you some scoring. So I don't think he wants to be that, but unfortunately, if he's not that for the Pistons, it's you're not going to win a championship with Reggie Jackson as your point guard. But let's talk about the rest of the team now. Luke Canard is somebody going into the offseason that I think the Pistons fans really need to be excited about. In these playoffs, he was not bad at all. There was some games where he was the man of the team, especially looking at the end of the regular season too. He was playing great basketball there, man. I feel like Luke wants to take that next step as a basketball player. Now, would I start him? I feel like that depends on who else you get here in the offseason, but starting Luke Canard at shooting guard and just seeing what he can do for a full season, I don't think is a bad way to go. Can space the floor, which is already a big plus right there. Defense can be questionable at times, but if you get a wing player, a small forward that can kind of take on some of those defensive responsibilities, maybe you end up trading Reggie Jackson for a more defensive-minded point guard, then you could definitely work with Luke Canard in the lineup. But I'm excited as a Pistons fan to see what he can do out there exactly. Wayne Ellington, another guy that against the Bucks wasn't really all that special, but he had some nice moments for the Pistons this season once he was picked up. Averaged 10 points, 2 rebounds per game. Defensively does okay out there, definitely can hold his own, but it's really his offense that was exciting for the Pistons, just because he was a veteran that knew how to put the ball in the basket, and that's what they were lacking at the beginning of the season. They just had all these just dudes on the team that they were just not consistent, and I think that's what you got with Wayne Ellington, is you got a little bit more consistency, and I feel like there's more out there in the free agency department that could really help this Pistons team, because you look at, man, that's what they need. They got the all-star front courts with Drummond and Blake Griffin. Now it's about putting the rest of the guys around those three guys, consistent guys, and you're good to go. Looking at everybody else, Ish Smith, he's at expiring deal now. He was fine. It would be nice to get him back as a backup point guard. He is more of a pass first than Reggie Jackson is, but his lack of a jump shot kind of negates him from being able to start at point guard. Like, I like him at this point just as a backup point guard. He's consistent, and that's a good spot for him, man. Langston Galloway, he has one more year left on his deal. I would keep him around. He's a guy that can, be a little bit of a microwave at times and just, he's not going to do it every single game, but every now and then he's going to come in and drop like 20 points. And that's fine, man. For $7 million as a backup shooting guard, that's good. Thon Maker. I mean, the fact that they only had to give up Stanley Johnson and get Thon Maker is fine. I don't know, man. Thon is an interesting guy because I see like a 7'1" guy, and part of me is just like, man, play near the basket a bit more. Like, you have all this length over all these guys, but then you like see him try to go to the basket or play down low, and he just doesn't have the muscle to handle. So he's stuck to shooting these three-pointers. And I mean, some games, yeah, he's hitting them. More times than not, though, he's shooting a lower percentage, and it's just not good. So maybe a full offseason, playing with the Pistons and getting chemistry going might be might be a good thing for Thon Maker. I just don't know. I don't know what Thon Maker is yet. And at this point, you would feel like you would know, because I still think he has potential, but I don't think it's great potential. Bruce Brown is another guy that will probably be back next season. He's on like a minimum contract. He was one of their draft picks a little while back, and he's somebody that he'll bring a good defense. Now, he started quite a bit for the Pistons, and he's not the type of guy you want starting on this team. I mean, he's not. Like, yeah, if you want him to come in and lock down a guy off the bench, that's fine. But you need to be able to score at that shooting guard spot. If you're listed as a shooting guard, you need to be able to shoot. It's just, this isn't a team that's constructed like the OKC Thunder where you can have an Andre Roberson going there, because the Pistons don't got that much offensive firepower where you can like make up for a Bruce Brown. They just don't have that. So yeah, he's fine. He can stay on the team. Definitely in a more limited role off the bench would be probably ideal. Glenn Robinson didn't do much for the team this season. Zaza Pachulia, he's an okay backup center. Of course he was going to bring the rebounding, set some hard picks. That's about it. But where you go with Zaza at this point. Not really a game changer. You got John Lure, who just like ever since he had like his major injury, has really not been anything for the Pistons. He's got like one more year left on his deal worth like $9 million. So I mean, an expiring contract can be enticing in some cases, but he's not gonna do much. Kyrie Thomas, have not seen much from him yet. Jose Calderon is just gone. It's just, he's not gonna be back on the team. He's probably gonna retire, would be my best bet. You got Svi out there, who was part of the Lakers trade. I believe that sent Reggie Bullock over there. He didn't really get much play. I don't think he played at all for the Pistons this season. If he did, it was in very limited minutes. But, he's a guy that's 6'8", that's supposed to be a really good three-point shooter. I'm excited to see what he could still do out there. I just don't know if he'll get the opportunities or not. So, yeah, long story short, you guys heard the story there. You got Griffin. Don't do anything with him. I mean, unless you want to go into a total rebuild, that's fine. But just put the right guys around Griffin and Andre Drummond, and the team will be good to go. So, I guess looking at some trade possibilities for Reggie Jackson, he's not going to warrant like a big haul, because he's just not, man. He's got $18 million, and a team that's maybe looking for an average point guard, I guess they might be they might be able to shift some things around. But for the most part, if you want to trade him to like a contender, you're going to get some role players for him. Plain and simple, man. That's all it's going to be. So I don't know if the Pistons really want to take that on. Now, one trade that I think would be kind of enticing would be the idea of sending like Reggie Jackson and John Lure over to the Magic in exchange for Evan Fournier and DJ Augustine. So kind of hear me out on this one here, guys. DJ Augustine is just a nice veteran point guard. Like, he had that really big game there for the Magic, and he's a locker room guy. He's somebody that knows how to tone it back a little bit, and I feel like that's Reggie's kind of weakness. He doesn't know when to tone it back. But he gives it some perimeter shooting. Like, for the past 2 seasons for the Magic, shot around like 42% from 3, which is nice. Now, his playmaking, though, that's the thing, though. It's like, you don't really get much there. He's going to get you like 5 assists a game, which isn't bad. But, I feel like having that more consistent shooter alongside Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond, you're kind of willing to kind of take a step back on that. But he did average, I believe, was roughly a career high at like 5 assists per game last season. So, no, he actually averaged like 6 assists early on in his NBA career for the Charlotte Bobcats, I believe it was. But yeah, really the big thing here, though, is that, yeah, you get a guy that could start with DJ Augustine, or maybe you look in the market for a different point guard and use DJ off the bench. That's fine, too. But getting Evan Fournier, I think, is exactly what this team needs. I mean, he's 6'7". He can play the shooting guard or small forward spot. Always a respectable three-point shooter. Yes, he did dip a little bit this season, about 34%, but I feel like that's just because, having Terrence Ross out there for the Magic, who had a really nice season. I feel like Evan Fournier kind of lost his way. So let's look back at the season before, though, man. He averaged, 18 points, 3 assists, 3 rebounds, shot 38% from 3. Just a nice scorer. So you get a guy in DJ Augustine who's not like, I don't want to say he's better than Reggie Jackson, but he might be a better fit. And you get a nice guy in Evan Fournier. You team up Evan out there with Luke Canard. Yeah, defensively it's not great. But, I mean, you get the scoring out there at least, to say the least. And it's only for 1 year anyway, man. So, you test it out, see how it goes. It's fine. And meanwhile, the Magic, they get a guy like Reggie Jackson that knows how to start out there and might give this team a little bit more than what DJ could. While they kind of groom Markelle Fultz into being their future starting point guard. So I feel like you get that 1 year rental with Reggie Jackson. Plus, John Lure could be something for the Magic. I mean, I don't think he's going to do too much out there, but you never really know. So I kind of like that idea right there of a trade for Reggie. Other trades, I suppose. I mean, it really depends. It's so hard to really tell. I guess if you want to go the direction with like the Memphis Grizzlies and you want to try to get like some more wing depth, then, a team that's rebuilding out there might be okay with getting Reggie Jackson because eventually they could trade Mike Conley. But you're not going to get like a Mike Conley trade to the Pistons for just Reggie Jackson. You have to give up some draft picks. But just get like some more wing depth. Maybe you go for like the 1 year deal of Chandler Parsons, who I still think could be a nice spot up shooter, despite some of his injury issues in the past. But, last season for the Grizzlies, he averaged like 7 to 8 points per game. So that'd be fine. Maybe also get a guy like a Kyle Anderson, who's supposed to be like a jack of all trades type of small forward, gives them some more wing depth out there, which is what the Pistons really, really need. Not really any other big time trades I can think of, though, that would be good for Reggie Jackson to get him, off the squad. Especially you're going to be taking on some contract stuff out there, too. Maybe the Toronto Raptors, you look to get like a Fred VanVleet, and then Reggie gives them more of a veteran scorer off the bench. That's another way to go. But that's about all you're getting for Reggie Jackson at this point, man, his NBA career. So, yeah, I guess moving on. The NBA draft. So the Pistons, I think, are supposed to have like the 15th pick in the draft. And at that point, it's still a pretty deep draft class. It's just a matter of what type of positions you want them to get and which players are going to be available. Now, I would like them to go for maybe a shooting guard or a small forward just to add that depth to their squad out there. I mean, if there is like a really good point guard available, then yeah, you go for that. But outside of Ja Morant or Darius Garland, the point guard depth for this draft class is actually pretty dang low here, man. Like, it's not great whatsoever. I feel like at this point, the type of players you're looking at is Nick Alexander, Keldon Johnson, KZ, Romeo Langford, players like that. And I think KZ Opala would be nice. Maybe a Romeo Langford. The reason I like both those guys is just because they can like create their own shots. They're both pretty lengthy out there where you could kind of plug and play at either the shooting guard or small forward position. I feel like that's an important aspect out there. I just don't really think the Pistons get like a big time game changer. Their route is more so in the area of going into free agency and maybe convincing some of the older free agents, some of the veterans, but still kind of have it to play with that, to get the opportunity to not only start, but play with Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond and kind of be those difference makers out there. So, yes, especially with some of the salary cap situation, there's not going to be like a lot of money to work with there. So that kind of sucks. But it kind of is what it is here, man. You know what I'm saying? So, yes, as far as like some free agents, I mean, I like the idea of going for like a Trevor Ariza. I feel like a Trevor Ariza would be fine for this team to get. Just, like a 31, 32-year-old can knock down a three-point shot, will play some defense for you. You know what you get. You get a locker room guy. That would be nice. So that would be available. I know there was talks of like a Tyreek Evans, which would be nice too because he is somebody that can handle the basketball, create his own shot, create for others, gives you some height out there. On the Pacers, he wasn't like fantastic, but just the other season on the Memphis Grizzlies, he averaged like 20 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. I don't think you get that out of him anymore, but you just never really know there, man. You just never really know. Wesley Matthews, when I found out he was on the buyer's market or the buyout market for the Portland Trailblazers, that's somebody I really wanted them to get. I was really hoping they would get Wesley and Wayne Ellington. Like, both those guys I felt like could have played the shooting guard and small forward spot. It would have been great. Danny Green, just a 3-and-D player out there, consistent player. Outside of that, for the shooting guard spot, not really too much else available that gives you, like, starter caliber type of player. Small forward position, I mean, maybe you go for like a DeMarre Carroll, who kind of has that grit and grind, defensive-oriented mindset that the Pistons, really built their whole entire franchise on in the past, and they're kind of lacking now in this day and age. But yeah, the small forward position, not really too deep out there for guys that you can get on a cheap contract. So I don't know, man. The Detroit Pistons are definitely a very interesting team. You guys let me know in the comment section below. What type of changes do you feel like this team needs to make? It would be great if they could go out there and they could make some sort of trade for a Mike Conley or even a Kyle Lowry, man. Because, you get Kyle Lowry out there in Dwayne Casey's system. He knows the system. Like, he's played with them in the past. So that would be another route to go, especially if the Toronto Raptors don't, win the championship. Then I could definitely see them, assuming Kawhi Leonard ends up going somewhere else, going into a rebuild, and I feel like trading Kyle Lowry's contract over for Reggie Jackson and maybe even a protected first-round pick or second-round pick. I think that would be a nice move for them. And then, of course, teaming up Kyle with Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond, that might just be exactly the type of player they need. So I like the idea of that. I guess a few other players they could go for, maybe some sort of sign and trade that would send Reggie Jackson over to the Jazz for like a Ricky Rubio, who is more of a pass-first point guard, but it really doesn't provide you the shooting that you would want out there. So yeah, if you got Ricky Rubio on this team, then you definitely need to get some perimeter scoring out there at that shooting guard and small forward position. So I do like the idea of the pick and roll capabilities with Drummond and Ricky Rubio if that were to happen. But the Pistons just, I don't know. You look at what they have and you think they should be a lot better. You feel like 41 wins for having Griffin, who is, I don't know, would you say he's top 2 power forward in the NBA? I guess it depends where Anthony Davis is playing at. Some might even say the best power forward in the NBA there, man. It's like, I know there's some other great power forwards out there too, but just what he did this season. And you got Drummond. You just feel like the team should be a lot better. And they're not far away. I think what this team lacks, just kind of give you like the executive version of this, is they just need some more veterans at the shooting guard and small forward position, and they'll be fine. Even if they keep Reggie Jackson, just get consistency out there. Same situation with the OKC Thunder. Like, that's what held the OKC Thunder back, was consistency at the shooting guard spot. There's plenty of NBA players out there that can knock down the three, knock down the mid-range shot, get to the basket, make plays for others. The opportunity is there. And they would love to play for this team, man. So you guys give me your thoughts about it in the comment section below. I don't got too much more to say about the Pistons here. I guess my expectations is them just to kind of make some of those small changes. I do expect Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond to be back. I could definitely see Reggie Jackson being back on this team, but also being a part of some trade. I just don't want the Pistons to give up too much, to get a Mike Conley or a Kyle Lowry. Because while those guys are good, I feel like that would leave the Pistons weak in other areas, and I do think this is a very deep draft class, and not having their pick last season really did kind of suck for them too. So I feel like there's some good opportunities out there, man, for this team. So they have a nice building block, they have a nice foundation, getting the playoffs is nice. Dwayne Casey is a great coach, despite some of his lackluster playoff performances from a coaching standpoint. They'll get there though, man. So if you are a Pistons fan, let me know in the comment section below what this team needs to do. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to drop that like. Subscribe if you're new to my channel, and peace out, my friends.